Hello again, this is Bruze, also known on WFTDA.tv as Amy Jo Moore. This video is a follow-up to the 6-point pass video I posted a month ago here on YouTube. Usually I use these videos as a launch point for the strategy classes I give as a travel coach, but thanks to social media and pages like Roller Derby Rule of the Day, there was so much online conversation generated by my first video, I felt it would be good to give away a bit more video and instruction for those who want to dig deeper into the 6-point pass or jammer lap point parts of the WFTDA rules and strategy. If you haven't seen the first video, you can click on the annotation on the screen, then come on back here for more detailed explanations. In this video, I'm going to show you an actual 6-point scoring pass from another Elm City Derby Dames bout, demonstrate how proactive 6-point passes always include an Eat the Baby, but not always a soul crush. For those who pointed out that it technically took 2 passes to score 6 points in my examples, I'll show you an animation where you can proactively achieve 6 points in one pack pass. Discuss the presumed logic behind the stats tracking. Discuss 8.5.1.1.3. Look at a video example of not on the track versus on the track equipment malfunction, and other minutia. In my last video, Elm City's jammer, Killbitch and Rage, didn't actually earn a 6-point pass in the video example. At least one strategist has asked me about my thoughts for both jammers. The answer to that is a bit more than I can fit in short YouTube videos. I will say that from a points per gameplay minute standpoint, forcing a 6-point pass is a losing proposition. But, as with any strategic move in Derby, there's often a time and place for every play in the book, and points per gameplay minute isn't the only metric by which we measure success. There are always times when burning the clock is valuable. Balancing points per gameplay minute against the psychological and physical game is in the value of good coaching and team goal setting. In this example, Elm City was expected to win by less than a 2-to-1 ratio, and set a goal to win by 3-to-1. By reducing the points per gameplay minute and practicing unique plays, Elm City not only exceeded its score ratio goal, it worked on skills and tactical development. It should also be noted that the team's first attempt at this play resulted in the opposing jammer cutting Elm City's jammer and a 1-minute power jam for Elm City, rather than the tactical play of a 6-point pass. This example is from the July 6th bout of Seacoast Roller Derby's Poison Pixies at Elm City in Brattleboro, Vermont. Killbitch and Rage is the Elm City jammer again in red. Their team is down 1 blocker, so Elm City has a 3-4 pack disadvantage. At the start whistle, she blocks the opposing jammer out of bounds to the outside, then sprints clockwise. The Pixies jammer, in black, takes an exceptionally long time to skate backward. It should be noted the Pixies jammer is not required to skate clockwise. She may wait for the red jammer to skate derby direction past her again. Because of the delay, one of the Pixies' blockers is able to break through the front of the pack, and, for a moment, Killbitch and Rage is also on her -1 lap, along with the Pixies' jammer. Killbitch breaks free and begins her initial pass. The 3 Elm City blockers are able to hold the Pixies' jammer for the next 2 passes. At 45 seconds into the jam, Killbitch completes her initial pass, having earned 1 jammer lap point and lead jammer. At 55 seconds into the jam, she completes her first scoring pass, which includes another jammer lap point and all 4 blocker points. Also at this time, her pivot is standing in the box, while she controls when the jam will or will not end. Again, my example is from a jam start. Forcing the Soul Crush Eat the Baby at the beginning of the jam places the opposing jammer at lap -1, while the proactive jammer has to skate from the back of the pack to the front and return to the pack just to begin an initial pass. This is a huge time waster, but it is a time waster completely independent of pack advantage. Since the January 2013 rules changed to 1 whistle to start them all, teams have fewer penalty burn options, but this is certainly one of them. In this video example, Killbitch spends 21 seconds before starting her initial pass, 45 seconds before she earns lead jammer, and a full minute until she completes her first scoring pass. This earned her 4 points per minute of gameplay in the first half. she earned another 17 points in the remaining minute for 9.2 minutes per minute of gameplay for the entire jam. Let's look at a 6-point pass that is not at the jam start. For this example, we'll assume the red jammer has completed her initial pass and is now in her first scoring pass, and the purple jammer is working on her initial pass. Let's say the purple jammer breaks free of the pack before the red jammer completes her pass. Once the purple jammer is more than 20 feet in front of the pack, she is on her next pass, or her first scoring pass. Let's assume the red jammer completes this scoring pass with such speed she's able to catch up and pass the opposing jammer. The red jammer gets 4 points for her scoring pass, but since she's passed the opposing jammer after the engagement zone, that point would be credited in her next scoring pass. If the red jammer just kept skating, she'd get that 5-point grand slam we're so familiar with. 1 point for passing the jammer and 1 point for each of the opposing blockers. But what if, as she passes that jammer, she engages her in such a way that the purple jammer gets reabsorbed by the pack? This could happen in many ways. A huge hit that makes the purple jammer scramble while a fast pack catches up, or a proactive booty block to put the jammer back in the pack, working in conjunction with her own blockers. Now, the red jammer, once she's more than 20 feet in front of the pack again, is in her second scoring pass, while the purple jammer has returned to her initial pass. If the red jammer comes through the pack this time and laps the jammer again, she'll be awarded 6 points, 2 jammer lap points, and 1 point for each opposing blocker. Here's what that would look like on the score sheet. This example is the NOTT score sheet, now included as an optional score sheet in the WFTDA stats book. In the previous stats book, this was the only scorekeeping sheet. The 2 L's in the small boxes indicate the red jammer lapped the opposing jammer twice in that scoring pass. Since I've opened up this discussion, some people have asked, why don't you just use one of the columns to mark the jammer lap points and the next column to mark the blocker scoring pass? It's a combination of rules, referee practices, and how the statistics are calculated. Beginning with the rules. 8.5.2. Points are announced by hand signal once the jammer has exited the front of the engagement zone. There is no other provision in the rules for jammer referees to announce points, so all jammer lap points are reported at the end of the next scoring pass. A scoring pass is complete once the jammer has exited the engagement zone, which is 20 feet in front of the pack, or for any incomplete passes when the jam has ended. 8.5.3, points are earned until the end of the fourth whistle of the jam ending signal, and 8.5.4, if the jam ends when the jammer is still in the pack, the points for any past opponents will be announced immediately. While these rules out of context imply a jammer must make it to the pack to be awarded her points for past jammers, that is not the case, as we refer back to 8.3 and 8.3.1.4, where the rules say she scores on jammers independent of scoring passes, and the next scoring pass begins immediately after exiting the engagement zone. The spirit of 8.5.2 and 8.5.4 combined is that a jammer's points are announced after exiting the engagement zone or immediately after the fourth whistle. Whether you use the simplified score or the NOTT score sheet, jammer stats are broken down by scoring passes. To spread out points beyond pack laps, the score sheet wouldn't correlate with the lineup sheet. The calculations are purely designed for tracking points per scoring pass. So far I've shown and have been talking about proactive additional jammer lap points, meaning jammer lap points earned because a jammer assisted with reabsorbing her opponent. We're familiar with packs who retain a jammer for a natural grand slam jammer lap point, but it is also possible to score jammer lap points because of errors committed by the opposing jammer. Roller Derby Rule of the Day pointed out that I glossed over equipment malfunctions, and when a skater is considered NOTT because she removes herself from play. 8.5.1.1.3. A skater who removes themselves from the track will be scored on as though they were on the track, until it has been determined that they have removed themselves from play, after which point they will be considered a not on the track point until they return to play, if they are allowed. Just because a skater leaves the track does not mean they have been immediately determined to have removed themselves from play. Just because a skater feels she has removed herself from play does not mean her referee instantly knows it was for an equipment malfunction, which is the only reason a skater may return to play in the same jam after having been deemed to have removed themselves from play. A skater who removes herself from play from injury may not return in that jam. The current rules do not define removed from play, but one could presume fixing an equipment malfunction at one's bench is removing oneself from play, while fixing said equipment in the crash zone, which is part of the play area, is not removing oneself from play. Dealing with an equipment issue does happen on the track and is not always taken to the team bench. I have a video example of two blockers who are both on the track dealing with an equipment malfunction. One is considered not on the track, and the other is out of play. Here the purple blocker low blocks a couple of the red blockers. The purple blocker is issued a low block major. At this point in time, according to 7.2.3.2.2, the purple blocker is considered not on the track. That's me, Red 802. As I'm nearly upright, the penalized purple blocker runs into me again. It is not a low block on my part because my legal blocking zone for me, my booty, makes contact with a legal target zone for her, front upper thigh, and I'm stepping. As this contact happens, my rear pocket buttons onto her fishnets. In my defense for my equipment, it's unusual for me to have buttons exposed as I skate in these shorts because 1, they don't stretch, and 2, we often play on rough concrete, and this bout was scheduled to be on a rough concrete outdoor rink. I'm still considered on the track, and while I'm out of play, I'm not illegally out of play because I am dealing with an equipment malfunction. No penalties are issued because neither of us is more or less responsible for this equipment malfunction. The big difference between the two of us blockers is when the two jammers pass us, I get scored on by the opposing jammer because I am unable to remove myself from the track. We are not creating a safety hazard, nor are we injured, so the jam will not be called. However, the purple blocker is officially not on the track because technically she is on her way to the box. This means my jammer will not be awarded her point until she passes a different opposing blocker who is on the track. I use this scenario as an example of understanding that if I were the red jammer, the purple jammer would score on me each and every time she passed me. Strategically speaking, if this happened, and my team, the red team, sped up with the illogical assumption that defensively speeding up as if it were a power jam would keep the purple jammer from passing and scoring on the pack. A wise choice for purple would be to go ahead and speed up too, because the purple jammer would get a point for every time she passed me and I'd have no way of stopping it. The good news is I was a blocker, so the purple jammer could only score on me once per pass. The other good news is no one was hurt and we all had something to laugh about at the after party. One rule I didn't mention in my first video regarding jammers being reabsorbed into previous passes is that 8.5.2.1 still applies. Once a scoring pass is complete, a jammer cannot score points unearned in their previous scoring pass. To put it another way, if a jammer gets reabsorbed after a scoring pass in which she didn't score on all opposing skaters, she doesn't get another chance to score on them, even though she's numerically back in that pass. I've constantly referred to this throughout this and the previous video, but what lap a jammer is currently on is based on her track position relative to the pack. The rules say the jammer is immediately considered to be on their next pass once they have cleared the front of the engagement zone. It's logical, then, to define a jammer as being in her previous pass once she is brought clockwise back into that engagement zone. The engagement zone is a space that includes the pack and the area of track 20 feet ahead of the pack, as well as 20 feet behind the pack. One intriguing point about the 6-point pass is that it is one of the first creatures born of the January 2013 WFTDA rules. Prior to this no minors rule set, it was only a minor penalty to cut one opponent, such as the opposing jammer, Rarely would a team put a jammer on the track who was on 3 minors. Up through 2012, most jammers would take a minor and the advantage of being ahead of the opposing jammer. Since that's no longer an option, cycling back or waiting for the jammer to come back is a better option than using up one of the 7 penalty box trips and a minute of penalty time not scoring. Oh, and just a couple more quick things. This is not the official method for jammer referees to signal 6 points. There is no official indication of a greater than 6-point pass at this time, but I expect we'll probably see one in the next year. What I've heard locally is referees are using a swooping 5 from the helmet, immediately followed by a swooping additional number of fingers, but you should check with your local WFTDA representative or certified referee for the most current clarification. Also, the greater than 5-point pass looks like this on flat track stats. I think the plus sign is a cool visual trophy. I hope you've enjoyed this extended presentation on jammer lap points. For more detailed strategy classes, look for me, Bruze, at a boot camp or training clinic near you. Listen for Amy Jo Moore on WFTDA.tv, or have me create custom coaching clinics and classes for your league. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel so you can be the first to know about new strategy videos. Thanks for watching.